get a lot of questions from new gardeners about what they did wrong. They plant things and the plants just don't succeed. And so I've come up with some things that in talking to people, that I figured out that they've done wrong. So this is basically the biggest mistakes that new gardeners make. And one of those is failing to prepare the soil well. Even if you're planting a very drought-tolerant, xeriscape type plant, you still need to prepare the soil. Loosen it, add some organic material, add a good balanced organic fertilizer. Now, if you're planting a rose or vegetables or herbs, you'll need to add even more compost and perhaps more fertilizer. So it's important to do a little research to find out what that plant's requirements are. But if you just dig a hole and stick a plant in, you're bound to not succeed with your garden. Now, the other thing that I think people fail to do is care for their new transplants. Whether you're planting a 4-inch pot or a 1-gallon or a 5-gallon plant, remember that those plants in the nursery have probably had a light sprinkling of water every day, if not a couple of times a day. So when you put them in the ground, you need to do the same thing until they have a good root system established. So regular watering. Also, many of these transplants have been in a greenhouse. They haven't been exposed to bright sun, to the wind. So just setting them outside without doing a little bit of care can really damage them early on. So gradually expose your transplants to morning sun and then a little more sun until they've been outside for a week or so in the elements before you plant them, or give them a little bit of protection once you plant them in the garden. And that's true with any of your transplants. Another thing that you want to look for are transplants that have been protected in the nurseries, especially in the early spring. Many times nurseries and garden centers get these plants in, they leave them outdoors. So when we have temperatures below 45, particularly things like tomatoes and peppers and basil, if they've been exposed to these cold temperatures, they don't die, but they just never really thrive. So your tomatoes will never set fruit. You don't ever see any production from your peppers. Your basil just doesn't grow. And it's possibly because they've been damaged by being exposed to cold temperatures. So buy from nurseries and garden centers that actually keep their plants in a greenhouse when it's cold at night and you know that they've been protected. They should look really healthy and vigorous. And then when you put them out, make sure you're protecting those tender transplants early on. Now, another thing that makes for success here in Texas is mulch, particularly in the summertime. If you have your plants mulched well, they will definitely survive. And you can mulch with shredded native landscape like this, or you can use leaves. You can use all sorts of organic materials like pine straw. Don't mulch too early, particularly with your vegetable garden. Let the plants harden off a bit, because mulch does provide hiding places for snails and slugs and pill bugs. So you want those stems of your plants to be a little bit tough, but definitely get the mulch in before the hot weather strikes, because it holds in moisture, it keeps down weeds, and it keeps the plants much healthier. And it'll protect them in the winter too, and you'll water less. Another thing you need to look for are insects in your garden. And it's important to know the good bugs from the bad bugs, what the larval stage of various insects look like, because some of the beneficials look very different in their larval stage. And have a few products on hand to take care of insect damage when that happens. So look on the Central Texas Gardener website under Trisha's Corner, and under insect control, I have a list of some of the insects and books that insecticides and books that you'll want to keep on hand to help you be successful with your new garden.